What if I told you the next 10 days will rewrite everything meteorologists predicted for this winter? The data coming in right now is making veteran forecasters question their own eyes. Three separate weather systems are about to collide over North America, and the resulting chaos? It's something we haven't witnessed since the winter of 2014. That was 11 years ago. But here's the secret everyone needs to know at the 3-minute mark. This isn't just about snow and cold. This is about a complete atmospheric reorganization that will determine weather patterns all the way into spring. Right now, the jet stream is doing something extraordinary. It's splitting into two branches. The polar jet and the subtropical jet are diverging at angles we rarely see, and that divergence zone, that's where the most intense weather develops. Within 48 hours, the temperature contrast from Canada to the Gulf of Mexico will exceed 80 degrees Fahrenheit. 80 degrees difference. Think about that. You could drive from International Falls, Minnesota to New Orleans and experience temperatures ranging from -10 to +70. The National Weather Service issued a rare, long-range hazardous weather outlook yesterday evening. They're highlighting a 7-day period of potentially dangerous conditions starting tomorrow night. 7 consecutive days of weather threats across multiple regions simultaneously. Now, God's word reminds us in Nahum chapter 1 verse 3. His way is in the whirlwind and the storm, and clouds are the dust of his feet. The Almighty controls these mighty forces. Yet he grants us the wisdom to prepare and protect those we love. Here's your 30-second reward, the critical information you need immediately. The ice storm zone will set up from southern Missouri through Kentucky into West Virginia and Virginia. Any location within 50 miles of Interstate 64 needs to prepare for significant icing Sunday night into Monday. Ice accumulation forecasts, they're calling for 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch. That might not sound like much, but let me put it in perspective. 1/2 inch of ice weighs approximately 500 pounds per linear foot of power line. 500 pounds. Major utilities are already pre-positioning repair crews. Over 3,000 line workers from 15 states are being staged in anticipation of widespread outages. But nobody's talking about the real story developing behind the scenes. The stratospheric polar vortex, that massive circulation of air 100,000 feet above the North Pole, is wobbling. When the polar vortex wobbles, Arctic air spills southward. And these spills can last weeks, not days. Computer models updated at 6 a.m. this morning show the vortex displacement reaching its maximum extent on January 11th. That's 9 days from now. And when that happens, temperatures across the northern plains could drop to levels we haven't seen in 3 years. The wind chill forecast for Fargo, North Dakota next Saturday morning, -35 to -45 degrees Fahrenheit. -35 to -45. At those temperatures, exposed skin freezes in less than 10 minutes. Minneapolis could see wind chills of -25 to -30, Chicago -15 to -20. Even as far south as Indianapolis might experience wind chills below zero. Now here's the twist that changes everything. While the north freezes, a subtropical moisture plume aims directly at the southeast. This isn't ordinary winter moisture, this is atmospheric river-level moisture. We're talking about precipitable water values exceeding 1.5 inches from the Gulf Coast to the Carolinas. What does that mean? Rainfall rates could reach 1 to 2 inches per hour during peak intensity. 1 to 2 inches per hour. That's flash flood territory. The Weather Prediction Center has already highlighted areas from Louisiana to North Carolina for excessive rainfall Sunday through Tuesday. Their Day 4 outlook shows a moderate risk, level 3 out of 4, for flash flooding. Rivers that are already running above normal from recent rains, they'll crest into minor to moderate flood stage. The Pearl River, the Tombigbee, the Alabama River, potentially the Savannah River, all forecast to reach flood stage by Tuesday or Wednesday. Don't miss what's coming at minute 5. After this initial surge of moisture moves through, we enter the ice storm window. And this is where the forecast becomes truly concerning. Cold air damming, a phenomenon where dense Arctic air gets trapped east of the Appalachian Mountains, will set up Sunday afternoon. Once that cold air locks in place, it's like a refrigerator door closing. Temperatures at the surface stay below freezing while warm air rides up and over at 5,000 feet. Rain falls from that warm layer, passes through the sub-freezing air, and becomes supercooled. The moment it touches any surface, trees, power lines, roads, vehicles, it freezes instantly. The duration of this icing event could extend 18 to 24 hours across portions of the mid-Atlantic. 18 to 24 hours of continuous freezing rain. I've been studying weather for decades, and I can tell you, ice storms are the most destructive winter weather events we face. They're worse than blizzards in terms of infrastructure damage. Tree damage alone from this event could take months to clean up. The weight of ice brings down not just small branches but entire limbs, sometimes whole trees. And when trees fall onto power lines, the restoration process becomes incredibly complex. As Jesus taught in Matthew 7 verse 25, speaking of wise preparation, the rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, yet it did not fall because it had its foundation on the rock. We build our preparedness on the solid rock of wisdom and foresight. The economic impact of major ice storms runs into hundreds of millions of dollars. The 2009 ice storm across Kentucky and Arkansas, over $700 million in damages. $700 million. This event might not reach that scale, but we're definitely looking at significant impacts. Now, while the ice storm threatens the mid-Atlantic, another story unfolds across the Great Lakes. Lake-effect snow machines will kick into overdrive. Cold Arctic air screaming across the relatively warm Great Lakes generates tremendous snow production. The temperature difference between the water and the air? It'll exceed 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Buffalo, Syracuse, Watertown in New York, the Keweenaw Peninsula in Michigan, these areas could receive 2 to 4 feet of snow between Sunday and Wednesday. 2 to 4 feet. That's 24 to 48 inches in 72 hours. Snowfall rates during peak intensity could reach 3 to 5 inches per hour with thunder and lightning, thundersnow as we call it. When you hear thunder during a snowstorm, you know the intensity is extreme. Transportation impacts will be severe. Interstate 90 across New York, Interstate 81 through Pennsylvania and New York, these major corridors will become treacherous or impassable at times. Here's the part they're saving for minute 12, the information that connects all these pieces. This entire pattern, the ice, the snow, the Arctic blast, it's all part of a larger atmospheric reset. After this system passes, we transition into a completely different regime starting around January 15th. The blocking pattern that's dominated since mid-December finally breaks down. The Pacific jet stream reasserts itself, and temperatures across most of the United States moderate significantly. But here's what's fascinating from a meteorological standpoint. The transition itself creates additional severe weather opportunities. When you flip from a cold, blocky pattern to a warm, progressive pattern, the boundary between old and new becomes a battleground. And along that battleground, storms intensify. We're forecasting a potential severe weather outbreak across the Mississippi Valley and Ohio Valley around January 14th to 16th. Strong tornadoes, large hail, damaging winds, all possible. The Storm Prediction Center doesn't typically highlight severe weather threats 10 days out. But they've already mentioned this period in their extended forecast discussion. That's how significant the pattern change appears. Temperature swings during this transition could be remarkable. Some locations might see a 40 to 50 degree temperature change in just 48 hours. 40 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit in 2 days. Imagine going from a high of 20 degrees on Tuesday to a high of 70 degrees on Thursday. Your body doesn't adjust that quickly. Health impacts from rapid temperature swings include increased heart attack and stroke risk, especially for those over 60. Now, the Lord provides for His creation through all seasons. As Psalm 147 verses 16 through 18 declare, He spreads the snow like wool and scatters the frost like ashes. He hurls down His hail like pebbles. Who can withstand His icy blast? He sends His word and melts them. He stirs up His breezes and the waters flow. We see this pattern of cold followed by warmth, freeze followed by thaw, playing out right before us. The snowpack across the northern Rockies and Sierra Nevada continues building. Current snow water equivalent, That's the amount of water contained in the snowpack, is running 120 to 180% of normal, 120 to 180%. This above normal snowpack virtually guarantees excellent water supplies for western states through the summer. Reservoirs that were critically low 2 years ago will refill. Agricultural water allocations will increase. But excessive snowpack also brings spring flooding concerns. When all that snow melts, and it will melt rapidly during the warm pattern coming in late January and February, rivers will rise quickly. The National Weather Service is already preparing spring flood outlooks. Early indications suggest above normal flood risk for the Missouri River Basin, the upper Mississippi, and portions of the Columbia River system. Flooding season could begin 3 to 4 weeks earlier than normal if the warm pattern persists. Let's talk about what this means for everyday Americans planning their lives over the next 2 weeks. If you have travel plans this weekend, especially across the Mid-Atlantic or Great Lakes, build in extra time. Consider delaying non-essential travel until midweek when conditions improve. If you live in the ice storm risk zone, prepare as if you might lose power for 3 to 5 days. Fill bathtubs with water. Charge all devices. Stock up on batteries, candles, flashlights. Have enough food that doesn't require cooking. If you rely on medical equipment that needs electricity, contact your power company now about priority restoration. Make arrangements for alternative locations if necessary. For those in the path of heavy lake-effect snow, stock up on groceries and medications today or tomorrow. Once the snow starts Sunday, roads will become impassable quickly. Northern residents facing the Arctic blast need to protect pipes, service heating systems, and ensure vehicles are winterized. Block heaters, fresh antifreeze, winter-grade oil. These aren't luxuries, they're necessities when wind chills drop below -20. Here's the best part. Coming up at 13 minutes 30 seconds. After we navigate this challenging 10-day period, the reward is a dramatic improvement. Long-range models are unanimous in showing above normal temperatures for the final 2 weeks of January. The Climate Prediction Center's latest outlook indicates temperatures 8 to 14 degrees above normal from January 20th through February 3rd. 8 to 14 degrees above average for 2 full weeks. This could be the pattern that finally ends winter's grip across the South. States from Texas to the Carolinas might not see another hard freeze this season. Gardeners can start planning earlier planting dates. Outdoor construction projects can resume weeks ahead of schedule. Energy costs will drop as heating demand decreases. But the warm pattern also accelerates spring. Trees and plants respond to temperature cues. An extended warm spell in late January could trigger early budding and blooming. If that happens, and we subsequently get a late-season freeze in March, agricultural losses could be significant. Fruit crops are particularly vulnerable. Peach trees in Georgia, apple trees in the Carolinas, cherry trees in the Mid-Atlantic, all at risk if they bloom too early. It's a delicate balance in God's creation. Every blessing carries responsibilities. Every opportunity presents challenges. The extended forecast also shows an active southern storm track continuing through February. That means regular rain events, 1 to 2 inches every 4 to 6 days, for much of the southeast and Gulf Coast. Flooding concerns will persist. Soil moisture levels will stay elevated. Rivers will run high all spring. But that moisture is exactly what's needed to erase the drought conditions that plagued the region last year. Every rainstorm replenishes groundwater, refills reservoirs, nourishes crops. As we close, remember that faith and preparation work together. Proverbs 27 verse 12 teaches, "The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty." We've shown you the dangers ahead. Now it's time to take refuge in preparation, in wisdom, in trusting God while doing our part. In our next video, we'll reveal the shocking connection between this winter's pattern and what's developing in the tropical Pacific. Early signs suggest a significant shift in the El Niño Southern Oscillation that could make 2025's hurricane season 1 for the record books. We'll also explore whether the pattern change signals an early end to winter and what that means for severe weather season kicking off weeks ahead of schedule. Thank you for watching. Share this information with your loved ones, prepare wisely, and may God's grace cover you through every storm. Remember, He is faithful. He is sovereign. and he is always in control. Stay safe out there.